just real quickly, remember it's the connection of a muscle to a bone, the only reason you can move. It's responsible for motion, balance, and tension. So you're not just doing the shortening or the big motions. These things are firing all day long to balance you and to provide what we call tensegrity. So like just everything is a flexion and an extension in the human body. So anytime you're bending over, like I'm bending like this, I'm flexing at the hip. Well, everything in the back is on a stretch and providing a nice little bit of counterbalance tension. All that's done by tendons and ligaments, but a lot of it by tendons. All right. Here's what I was talking about before, the viscoelastics or the tendon biomechanics and when you would see a rupture. So viscoelastic means that based on the rate of loading and the heaviness of loading, like the factors that go in what your muscle is doing, the properties of the tendon will change. Like it'll become stiffer or less stiff depending on how you throw load at it, which is pretty cool because that means your body's able to adapt to any situation really. Tendons store energy. So this is why we're able to run long distances and outcompete evolutionarily speaking. You know, we could chase an antelope or whatever for forever because our running is more efficient than most animals because we're storing energy in our tendon structures. And really a lot of our energy is stored in the foot, like the plantar fasciitis, believe it or not. But the Achilles tendon stores a ton of energy for us. And then you hit the ground, store energy, use the energy with your muscles to go forward. So it's a way to stay efficient. And then everything responds to sensory input, right? So your tendons actually respond to load and they sense load and they know when they're being loaded and they know which way they're being loaded. And this is because of the cellular have what's called mechanical receptors. So this shows you, and the next graph is going to go into this graph in more detail. Basically shows you what happens, and then all of a sudden the tendon will fail. So that top right part where it says failure, the rupture point. Down there is what we call the toe region, and this is where, remember the little picture of the fibers with the little stripes? That is the natural crimp. I don't know if y'all remember the 80s when people used to crimp their hair, and you would get that zigzaggy hair, and it shortened the hair, and then you would pull on it, would straighten out and the hair a lot longer. Comes from the fact that these things are crimped up. The first bit of motion happens where you uncrimp it, right? And then that's called elastic deformation. So it can go right back as long as you don't bypass just that little bit, okay? And that's just about 2% strain, meaning, you know, the amount of distance changed for any given force. So once you get out of that toe region, when you've uncrimped it and then you're still applying force, then you get into what's called plastic deformation, which means it doesn't bounce right back to its original shape. And then if you keep applying force and you keep lengthening the tendon, then you get to the point where it ruptures. So you fully stretched it out. It cannot stretch anymore. It's plastically deformed, meaning it's changed its shape sort of permanently. Then all of a sudden you apply force and it cracks and breaks, ruptures. Achilles tendon ruptures, rotator cuff tears, in theory, if it's like a true acute traumatic tear, plantar fascia tears, things like that. So this is how it works at a mechanical level with the physics. So you can keep stretching it and it should go back more or less, but eventually you're going to overcome the physical properties of those little braids and it's going to bust.